Okay, this is going to be about the rainbow of God. You know how at the end of the flood, God sends a rainbow, and it's supposed to be a sign that He's never going to flood the world again, except for about 1,000 years later, and then about 400 years later, and well, localized. I'm talking about now, and then another 1,100 years. You know, these are big floods, though. These take out big areas, but just don't do anything. And then I guess the tsunami in Japan, and the giant flood that happened here in the United States, around New Orleans. So, yeah, he's not going to flood the whole world again. Well, even whenever the great flood happened, it didn't flood the whole world. It just flooded out the civilized people living around the waterways whenever the waterways raised themselves. I don't know, the Bible says 45 foot. I think maximum is what, 15 cubits or something along that line. So that sounds about right. I don't have any big mountains around there. There's mountains in the background, and that's what they'd wash up to, but they don't see them. I'm deviating way far away, but this is the rainbow story that goes along with it. And so the Bible's left us to believe that rainbows never happened until that moment. And then after that moment, you would have rainbows. And that's a little odd, due to the science that we know nowadays and what causes rainbows. But back in olden times, you can imagine as storm clouds go away and a rainbow shows up and everybody's safe through it, they'd be like, oh, it's a sign of God because He did the rainbow thing. One thing real cool about this picture here is it almost looks like, if you look at the lightning right in the middle, you can see this smoke around that lightning, and that's because whenever it fractioned through the atmosphere right there so hot and hard, it actually caused steam to instantly evaporate and turn back into a cloud in the air. And I don't know if y'all are aware, but whenever lightning happens like this, the sound concussion that happens off of that reverberates through the cloud. That makes the cloud sweat, and it makes the precipitation fall again. So quite often you could say lightning brings rain, but then rain brings lightning that kicks in rain, and then that static tension that pops up and down causes more lightning. But it's real rare to catch something like, oh, I don't know, it's neat that it's, just dry here totally and wet wherever that's showing up as, and then to catch a rainbow at it. And then to catch a cactus that looks like it's really flipping off the whole situation, like you missed me, and he flips off God, and then God says, a zap! And then the scoreboard comes up and goes, God missed. Ding, fail. Well, you just kind of missed him, didn't he? Yeah, it's pretty close, though. That's got to be within, I'm going to say it's within a mile. But it looks like it could be within a couple of 100 yards, maybe about 300 yards. If I could see where it's attaching onto the ground, I'd get a better idea. But due to what I know about the thickness of lightning and how big around it would be and how far they're away, the bolt can only show up a little bit smaller around than that cactus would be. And then you take that cactus and go all the way over there, and it's only 200 yards away, maybe 300 yards away. And of course, half of the light that you see of that band going down is just blur of light. The lightning that's inside is about half that size. If you've ever looked at one analyzed, or had one that where they were using like a welding gauntlet so they could really see what was going on whenever it does it. A bunch of lighting effects and things like that. But this whole idea that, well, we've seen like prisms happen before, and it's nice to have symbols for things, and it's great that the gay community has taken the rainbow and put it into their symbology and stuff. Although I don't get why that would be so symbolic, but that it could be very much so. I'd like for the world to embrace it instead and say that we're all, it's almost like a we are the world type of thing. But in doing so, you'd have to say there's no blue and purple people and stuff. It needs to just be like shades of brown. It needs to be a rainbow made out of the shades of brown. That'll be our symbol, you know. And look at this chick's hair. That's great. Yeah, there was something I wanted to show you down here too. I saw right before I caught that original picture, and I can't. Oh yeah, these rainbow pools. That's one thing that's real cool. There was something else, and it's not showing up. It flashed and changed on me. Shutterstock, it changed on me. But you know, like the prism that's created on dark side of the moon and how it refracts the light. And this is done right here, actually chemically. You know, this is a chemical reaction that's going on, and did all the minerals that are coming up out of the hot spring and spreading out to the outside. And the yellow on the outside is sulfur, and then it's chlorides, and then so on, anyhow, making the blues. And I've even seen one with a purple tinge before in little puddles in the center of it. So you can get things like that out of it. But you know, we know that prismatic effects make rainbows. Oh, I know what I was going to show you now. We know that prismatic effects make rainbows, and I've even seen it could just cut through light through a water droplet and make a rainbow. And pieces of glass make rainbows. So you see it quite often. And you know, it does look kind of magical if you have some little crystal chandelier and you have sunlight cutting through it, and it makes little rainbows and prisms all over your wall, and it's just incredible. And of course, you know, the rainbow and the light is knowledge and the knowledge of God, so that's all goes together with the idea of light being something that plays into it. And the colors of the rainbow bring out the chakra colors that you have that run up your body and the kundalini, so it has that effect. And people say, well, that's the rainbow he gave you, and I tell you, it's not the rainbow that they're talking about in the Bible, though. They're actually talking about the rainbow. By the way, have you ever seen a rainbow lobster? Pretty cool. It's from Thailand. Rainbow lobster. Just a rare male form. I think the females look more orangish and just don't have any blue on them. But yeah, it's really like kind of like a giant crayfish, saltwater crayfish. Where is this picture that I was looking at? Because I wanted to make a point here, and I had a picture that could help make me make the point, and now I'm going to make the point. Oh, here we go. So, you know, rainbows, you know, God makes a rainbow, right? Well, my daughters can get out there just as well as you can and take a sprinkler or just a water hose and vent it with their thumb, and they can make a rainbow, right? You've done this before. So you say, well, God makes a rainbow to show something. You know, I could spray water out there and then say that I made it and everything. It's kind of funny. I think it's why there was so much dissension in the worship of this God, is that perhaps people weren't as dumb as he gave them account to. Maybe a lot of them were, but some weren't. And they had probably seen rainbows 50 times in their lives. And then whenever he went on the Noah trip and got out and he goes, "See, there's a rainbow," and they go, "Yeah, didn't we have one of those like just the week before when we had that little shower right before the big flood? There was a rainbow after that one." And you know, about half the rainstorms that come through, it just depends on what angle we are to the sun and prismatic and water and moisture effects. And God's probably like, "Yeah, well, I did that too. I did that too. I was letting you know what I was going to make it look like," or something. And how would you come up with some, you know, I don't know, some cartoony thing about that? And but you know, I can make a rainbow. So am I a god? Because I mean, you can make rainbows with just spraying it through water, just like this. You can take and spray water through water drops, just like this, and you can make it vent a rainbow. It's pretty cool. I mean, so this is multi-sprinklers going out once, and they're the fine sprinklers like at a golf course, and I think it's picking that up right there. You can actually see multicolor rainbow going through some of the dots, and each individual dot and how they're colored up, each individual drop of water, how they're colored. That's pretty neat. But Rainbows don't come from that effect. And so if this God takes credit for something that we know is brought about from a different reason, then that would actually show human intervention of thought. And then if they say, well, he was the one, and right after the flood, and then he says this, then you'd have to say, I don't think you were really attached to this moment. No, you couldn't have been attached to that moment. You had to have been thinking up some neat story. And I find that one of the love cults, I believe the Amorites, Amor, that's love, so kind of makes sense. I think, in the Bible, it's one of the Sodom and Gomorrah type people. And I guess Rome and Greece, they were all like a big love cult, kind of hanging around, kissing on everybody, eating grape scrap, right? While these people are fighting it out like in a barbaric desert that the Romans had left a long time ago, or the people that became Romans. Anyhow, strangely enough, rainbows, let's just leave it at this. Rainbows can happen for a lot of prismatic effects and other reasons, and then therefore it wouldn't have been from a God, and there's no way that actually works out. And I hate to shatter beliefs, and I love rainbows too, and you can say that the God of everything created the fact that whenever you refract light through water, that it makes rainbows. And I'm sure that's what apologetics attempt to say now, but that's not what that's not what that book says. It says that he created the rainbows, and really there wasn't any rainbows before then, and we know that there had to have been. I mean, there's no way that you can't not have a rainbow whenever moisture goes through light. It's just what it does. And now he's taking credit for a natural phenomenon. And this is right after the flood, which could have easily been a natural phenomenon. I think at the end of the last ice age, at the start of the Younger Dryas area, where just the middle of the earth was the good spot anymore, and ice had encroached real hard, that there was a meteor that came down and struck, and it broke apart in pieces and hit, cascading across the earth and into the North American hemisphere too, and pretty much smoked everything out. And it was one of those weird ones that blows up just in the atmosphere right above as it cascaded and did, and not so much hit the ground, but in doing so that caused a massive worldwide flood that happened due to tsunamis that happened there, and then of course ice caps breaking loose, melting away, and raising the flood level, or the level of the oceans and the level of everything, up quite a bit in a short amount of time, causing tidal waves good enough to cascade waters due to these giant tidal waves all the way up into lakes like Great Salt Lake, which evaporates away and turns into salt. And you wonder how that ever was salt. And you can look around the planet, and there's a lot of, in fact, just right there by Jerusalem, there's the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea was caused from where it used to be attached, and it wasn't. Well, the sea level used to be lower, so how are you getting credit for that? Well, quite easily some of that salt could be accounted for seawater rushing in past Jerusalem, up over the hills and right into there, and filling it up and then evaporating away. I mean, it has some tributaries running into it, but I digress, and now I'm going real long on rainbows, aren't I? But yeah, that's my thoughts on God's rainbow. I mean, it's a rainbow, but God didn't do that.